Good evening. Welcome back to Finnerty. Glad you're here. I'm Rob Finnerty, and we mentioned this last night. The media just aren't interested in covering the Charlie Kirk story. Not really. Not honestly. Which is strange coming from people that love talking about root causes. They seem completely disinterested in reporting or investigating the root causes of the violence on the left, of trans violence or trans terrorism or trans Tifa. Whatever you want to call it, we're not trying to be cruel. But the left wants to pretend that none of this is a problem. But it is. At this point, trans violence is beyond a problem. But instead of covering it, the media would rather report on fake problems in the Trump administration because that's what really matters tonight, right? The difference is this time Donald Trump is not taking the bait.
Take a look at what he did with respect to this horrible person that he just captured. He did it in 2 days. It took other similar cases 4 days, 5 days, 4 years, if you look at certain shooters. Now, I have confidence in everybody in the administration.
It's kind of pathetic, really, how marginalized these people have become in the legacy media. But they are asking questions like that for a reason. And we're going to explain that to you tonight in detail. But first, and this is important, the media would rather ask the president about his FBI director rather than asking about the assassin and his transgender love mate. And like we said last night, we're just not interested in playing you sound bites from the left, from CNN, from MS Now, to prove to you once again how lost these people really are. You know what they're saying, and you know it without even seeing it, and we feel like we know you. And you also know that the legacy media played a big role in what happened last week, and they have cashed in on fear and catered to the most extreme on the left for years, and now they are covering this story by covering it up completely, and they're doing that on purpose. In April, Rutgers University asked 1,200 people a very simple question: is murdering Donald Trump justified? The results were also simple. People on the right overwhelmingly said no, but 56% of people on the left said yes. And 50% of people on the left said the same thing when it came to murdering Elon Musk. Think about that. The fact that we even have to ask a question like that says something, and it's not good. They didn't ask Americans if they thought killing JFK was justified after it happened. They didn't have to. Times were different. So what does it tell you now when almost 60% of people on the left think that assassinating Donald Trump just isn't a big deal, that it would be somewhat justified? That was in April, 10 months after Butler, Pennsylvania. The left are in the middle of something right now that goes way beyond politics, but the media would rather ask Donald Trump about Kash Patel instead of asking about the real story that's staring all of us in the face, and the vice president has finally had enough.
I believe we must. But unity, real unity, can be found only after climbing the mountain of truth. One truth is that 24% of self-described, quote, very liberals believe it is acceptable to be happy about the death of a political opponent. Most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left.
That's J.D. Vance hosting Charlie Kirk's radio show. According to a YouGov poll that was taken after Charlie was assassinated, 18% of people who call themselves very liberal said that violence is justified to achieve your political goals, and 24% approved of celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. And that poll came out after he was killed. Again, after he was killed, between last Wednesday and tonight. Think about that. According to another poll of 2,300 U.S. adults, this is a good poll, and this is shocking. Another 21% said they think that Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin, is a Republican. And less than that number think he's a Democrat, meaning there are more people out there right now who think that a Republican assassinated a Republican than think that a Democrat with a trans furry boyfriend killed Charlie Kirk. Let that sink in. It doesn't even make sense. But people believe what they see when they're scrolling through their phones and when they watch CNN. And that's a tragedy. Maybe you've seen this photo of Tyler Robinson in his dorm room wearing a red Trump t-shirt. Pretty convincing, right? Turns out that photo is a fake and millions of people saw it. But the left are doing that on purpose because they want you confused. They want people to think that a Trump supporter killed Charlie Kirk. That's a story they want to tell. That's a story they can sell, and it's working. No unity, no coming together. Charlie Kirk deserved what he got, which is exactly the way the left wants it.
There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. I'm desperate for our country to be united in condemnation of the actions and the ideas that killed my friend. We can only have it with people who acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, and when we work to dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism in our own country.
The left are also trying to pretend, and that's what it is. It's a fantasy. But they're trying to pretend that what happened to Charlie Kirk has nothing to do with the left, that this happens all the time on both sides, which is not true. And a reporter tried to make that point when she asked the president in the Oval Office why the flags at the White House weren't lowered to half-staff this summer when the Speaker of the House in Minnesota, a Democrat, was killed in June. The assumption being that a Republican killed her. Take a look.
On Charlie Kirk, in retrospect, given all of the moving ways that this White House has paid tribute to Charlie Kirk, right, do you think it would have been fitting to lower the flags to half-staff when Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota House Speaker, was gunned down by an assassin as well?
So the problem with that, Melissa Hortman was a Democrat, and while her death was tragic, she was actually killed by another Democrat. Not only that, a Democrat who worked directly for Tim Walz was appointed by Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, Kamala's running mate, meaning that in this case, a Democrat literally assassinated another Democrat because that's the left. That's what they do as a party, and it's not being covered by the rest of the media. It's being covered up. But I guarantee you, if in June a Republican happened to assassinate a Democrat, it would have been the biggest story in America. And that's the way the media wants it. They want the public to think that a Republican killed Charlie Kirk because that's a better story for them. Because if people are distracted by that, they will not focus on the truth that Tyler Robinson, the shooter, was a radical leftist with a trans boyfriend.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders.
So that was the Attorney General in the state of Utah right there, clearing up any confusion that might have remained. But instead of reporting the facts of this case today, the left continues to play this little game that they've been playing for so long, where we avoid talking about what's become a crisis in this country: radical trans violence, totally unique to the United States of America, and it's been building for years. The Denver shooter was trans. The Aberdeen, Maryland shooter was trans. The Nashville shooter was trans. The Philadelphia shooter was trans. The Minneapolis church shooter from just a few weeks ago was also trans. And the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin had a trans boyfriend named Lance Triggs, who is not only trans, he also identifies as something called a furry, where Lance dresses like an animal. Young Lance, who's 22, thinks he's a wild animal. Again, we are not trying to be mean. I don't care what Lance does in his private time. But for far too long, instead of addressing an illness, we have indulged a fantasy, creating a one-sided problem that one side are not only trying to ignore, they are also trying to justify. Because according to the left, all of this is justified.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.